Okay, a summary of why I hate Twatter and why I can't leave Twatter despite hating it now for years. Truly, it's not just this kind of semi-annoying site. It's not yet another site. Twatter is the worst site out there, and yet I can't leave it because in one sense at least, it's fascinating. At least in one sense, it's fascinating enough that I hate it, but I keep going back. And that's because it's every last damn one of you. Every single one of you who tweets, just read enough tweets from them, you gotta put them in the bad bucket. And it's only Twatter where this happens. Any other site, it's not every last one of you. With Twatter, I don't care. Just read enough tweets from them and you'll see it's every last damn one of you. It's why I don't tweet. I don't want there even a surface level resemblance between me and every last one of you. I had to open a Twatter account sometime, I think in 22, before Elon got it. Musk likey, before he got it. Just gratuitous, airing of this record again. I know I used this one before, but this one's worth reusing. Musk likey. So Elon got it, but I think sometime a few months before in 2022, I had to get an account just to view twats. Just to view these twats where it's like it's every last damn one of you. No other site has this problem. No other site worsens every single one who uses it by the mere use of it. This is Twatter. This is why. This is why it's unique and I can't leave it. Oh, Harris, I can't quit ya. Oh, many other figures, I can't quit ya. But in terms of sites, it's Twatter. I can't. I'm looking for that one that stands out where it's like I can read enough twats by them and they're not worsened. On Twatter, it's every last one of you. I will not tweet. I had to get that account just to view tweets, but I myself, despite having had to get that account, I myself will not tweet. Because then it's just going to create a surface level resemblance between me and every last one of you. You who feign you're here to discuss public issues in a serious matter. No, you're not. You're here to reach for whatever makes you feel good. That's what, insofar as you're on Twatter, you're not here to discuss public issues. You're here to reach for whatever it is that makes you feel good. So you go on Twatter. You should know better, or you should know to drop the act. And so that everyone just understands that, oh, Elon made free speech again. So now we can solve all these issues because there's no more censorship. And it's like, just look at Twatter. It's like, no, your diagnosis was always a misdiagnosis. So you should just come out and admit you're not here to discuss public issues and to try to solve problems through mutual discourse. You're on Twatter because you want to reach for what makes you feel good. And there's boatloads of it on Twatter. It's where people go to meme and to act as if memes aren't kind of played out. And I need to do a mea culpa. I went heavy on memes there. 2022 onwards, pretty much. I didn't jam pack all videos with memes, but like most videos had at least one meme. So I kind of want to apologize. Maybe Twatter did rub off on me.
This is also something that I wish I could just take all the personal knowledge I have in my brain and just imbue it onto everybody. Okay?
Hey, you stop stealing my lines. One of the worst things mainstream media has done over my lifetime is the time I've been alive. And so we're well in the future now because things are that stupid. So we are outdoing idiocracy, but it means we're in the future. There's no way we're in the present. I'm going to say this every now and then, occasionally. So across my lifetime, one of the worst things that mainstream media has done, they've done many bad things. One of the worst things is specifically in North America, but then it's arguably spread beyond it, but this is a specific North American thing. This is the kind of stuff John McWhorter and Glenn Lowry, God bless him, still go on about in formulaic ways, but I'll talk about it briefly here. So one of the worst things, it's true, that specifically mainstream media, that good old MSM has done, certainly over my lifetime. If I go back and I look at stuff, and I look prior to my lifetime, prior to my 38 years, because we're in the future, prior to my 38 years on this planet, they weren't doing it much. This is kind of mid-80s onward kind of stuff they started doing it. And it's to hold whites to higher standards and then to really berate them racially speaking, to higher standards of moral considerateness, and then to really berate them when they falter along those high standard lines, and yet just never ever set their sights on those who fail, even though they're playing by lower standards. They're biking alongside the wind. So when we consult the MSM narratives in terms of who's doing bad in terms of racial sensitivity and just who's doing bad cross-racially, in MSM, most of the segments you see, most of the exposure, most of the kind of, this group is number one on the FBI. It's these white supremacists, they call them, or just white nationalists. But look, they're the number one FBI threat. White House still kind of does it. But what they do and why they infuriate so many people, those people don't have to have racial animus, what gets called whitewash. Like, you don't have to have a pinch of racial animus to be smart enough to figure out that you're being held to higher standards than just about any other race. And why? Why do they, and then failing to, at least those who fail those lower standards even, at least you can berate them proportionally to the level you berate whites for failing those higher standards. When you look at what non-white races do to each other worldwide, and then even the way they conduct themselves I'll say it, the Palestinian Tentifada protests, this is majority, well, in one sense it's kind of majority female stuff, but it's also majority third worldist stuff. It's non-white on non-white crime in many cases. It's a lot of broken English crime, but it's a lot of non-white on non-white crime. This is the kind of crime that it's just true. Family Guy spoofs it all the time. It's just, the MSM is just not interested in. Maybe they're getting there, but throughout my lifetime, they haven't been interested in it. And then there's a portrayal of anyone who speaks out against it as being fundamentally driven by racial animus, white grievance. So you got to watch the video, Prague Hated Frog. I often say it's Prague versus Frog, but you got to watch my Prague Hated Frog video. Apart from taking shots at what's her name, Sister Soldier, apart from taking shots at her, graphically and verbally, in that video I just pretty much explained this, but I don't put it in this specific way. It's that you don't have to have a freaking tinge of racial resentment. It's about the narratives that you can push back to. It's perfectly justified to figure out, to see that you're being held to higher standards. You're more racially considerate, and yet most of the stuff you hear is how racially insensitive your group is. Not necessarily. Whites, there's just a lot of nativist ones. But with the nativists, it really is about who's born here and who isn't. And setting the anchor baby thing aside, it's about who's a citizen. A nativist can be colorblind. That's something the media needs to admit, the MSM needs to admit. Nativists can be colorblind people, and it's just citizenship matters just that much in terms of who's the in and out group. But they want to spin it into a racist thing. They want to spin accentism into a racist thing. That's why you don't see adult cartoons go as hard on foreign accents the way Duckman did. You don't see that because a lot of things that, like, your tongue is not a racial aspect of you, like the way your tongue operates, but it gets conceived as a racial aspect. This is all, you don't have to believe George Soros funds it. No, this can be organic. This can be emergent properties, media conducting itself along the lines of emergent properties. That's just how the cookie crumbled. So I'm not here to be conspiratorial about it. I'm just saying it doesn't take much brain power. It doesn't take much rationality to think past it. And so a lot of people have figured it out. There's a racial duplicity in terms of hostility along racial lines to outgroups. There's a lot of smart people who they're just not interested in poking at it and investigating it when it's emanates from non-whites. Non-whites perform worse racially, many other ways too, but non-whites perform worse in terms of their racial sensitivities. You look at what the Japanese and the Chinese have been doing to each other up until about 5 minutes ago. Where are their critical theories in those societies? You think those societies are having critical theories? Oh, what, are you just more enlightened? You'd have to believe you are, right? You'd have to believe that the enlightened thing to do is to practice critical theory racially, maybe other ways, intersectionally. What did Sam say? Sammy said it's intersectional, something arsonists. But it's there's an irony at the bottom of it too. To be racially enlightened is to practice racial critical theory and to live it out in the world and to change structures of oppression and to reimagine this and that. But in the meantime, hold whites accountable, and only whites. But that's to practice critical racial theory, stuff James Lindsay wants to associate with communism, and just so he can kind of make bank. And he probably believes it. He's a tragically spectacular figure. James Lindsay will never know how spectacularly funny he really is. He never will. Because he's one of the never again types. James Lindsay is. But he doesn't see how it penetrates to existential issues. Never again is an existential issue. To say never again existentially, to kind of create a bolt around further tragedies, or at least say that we should have pro-attitudes toward that, even if we don't want to, implement it by force. We should just have pro-attitudes toward that. That horrific things never happen again, even if it means you switch certain things up existentially. But James Lindsay is telling a kind of never again story because he assumes the left-right thing is meaningful, and then he says it's all left all of the time. The more enlightened he becomes, he's telling this kind of narrative, the more enlightened he becomes, the more he sees that it's all bad from left, and that's where the threat is, and that's why we're going to have... It's us here on the other side saying never again, and it's the left saying no, 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 over and over again. That's his spin. But it doesn't even get off the ground as something that needs to be debunked, because it's not an analytically meaningful split. It's just what people want to make of it, the left-right split. That's in a previous video. What even is right? But yeah, he does, in his part, he does certain kinds of throat clearing. For my standards, in terms of commentary, the whole James Lindsay book thing, critical theory, that's just a throat clear. Then you got to take it further, but he can't because he's stuck on the never again. He's here to create a firewall between bad ideologies and the West because he believes never again. And he kind of ignores the never again stemming from, well, what if you just don't think critically enough about the whole thing surrounding begetting? Maybe begetting is why never again will fail. Can't think that far in, or would be offended by the mere suggestion. Because at the end of it, he's just a dullard. He's just a dullard who reads. There's a lot of... God, people don't get this. There's a lot of the book market. It's just a lot of dullards who read and who are intellectually curious, but who can't take the mundane and look at the mundane existentially. Fundamentally incapable. That's why I gag a little inside when I hear people say never, or just allude to things like never again, because it's always just anthropogenic. No, the never again can be non-anthropogenic. It can occur because we didn't ask for it. Everyone can behave perfectly, and we can have things happen that when we look at it in the future, we'll go, God, never again. It doesn't have to be anyone's fault. The reason to say never again. But it's always recognized after it happens. So we can maybe existentially just recognize that that's a clue as to what ought to be done existentially, but not forcefully. Not forcefully. No, the anti-begetters like me, we don't have an aggressive ideology. We just want to be. We just believe this is a persuasive ideology. To look at never again and then to say it's fundamentally an existential matter. Begetting always opens the door to over again. So to have never again, you got to close the door existentially. You got to sew yourself up or whatever. Just use a condom. But yeah, that's James Lindsay. But this is just to say, I'll go back to the racist thing. Like, whites are held to higher standards. It's so manifestly obvious. Whites as groups in these societies that have these university departments, that have the humanities, that have the critical theory, that have then, different flavors of critical theory like intersectionality. It's like, it's all magnifying glass under kind of, especially rural whites. These people love to have their studies on rural whites and what rural whites think. It's like they don't have to be resentful to start with. It's just so obvious they're being held to higher standards. They can see what's going on in the world. They're fairly, even the rural whites, even the Trump voters, it's just nativism. Racially speaking, more often than not, they are racially considerate people. They have a lot of blacks in the audience. Like, you watch the MAGA rallies, there are Hispanics, MAGA has grown in part because they've welcomed more or less the blacks and the Hispanics. It's some of the militia ones that are less so, but MAGA is not a militia. MAGA is much larger than its militia and John Bircher and so on and so forth quotient. MAGA does have some problematic quotients, but MAGA is much bigger than those, and they're racially considerate folks. They have that, Vivek ran, and Vivek got applause in some cities when he ran against Trump. Vivek, and I dare not do anything with his last name, but the MAGAs more or less embraced him. It's about whether he'll suck Trump's dick. It's not about what his skin color is. If he sucks Trump's dick, maybe in the future, literally, well, we'll see where the future. Like I said, we are in the future, but when we go deeper into the future, it's not about Vivek's skin color with MAGA. They're racially considerate people. If they see him sucking Trump's dick, he's good. He's like the rest of them. He's cool. To be cool, you just gotta suck Trump off. You can be any shade. You can even be purple. I think you can even have purple hair. I think you can be a purple-haired lesbian, and you maybe even call yourself queer. But then if you in public suck Trump off, they'll love you. They'll welcome. They'll embrace you. Critical theory people just want to ignore that, and so they suck too. Oh, but while on communism, I found a way to summarize communism too, or communists as people. Communists, if we're going to summarize them, they can be summarized as these people who can't accept that they have no solutions effectively. They'll claim they have solutions, but those are just solutions ideologically, which, how often does it mean when you have solutions ideologically that then they're the sorts of solutions that can be made into solutions effectively? No, sirree, Bob. I have solutions, but I don't have solutions effectively. My solutions half the time are get rid of group identity. Boom, problem solved. So it can be said of me that I have solutions ideologically, or, in some normative way. I can say things that to me sound normative. But out there in the brute world, I have no solutions effectively. I have nothing. I have diddly squat. Unlike Robert Wright, who thinks, oh, get rid of the blob. There, I have solutions effectively because there's a blob you can effectively get rid of. No, you can't. You've never proposed anything. You just parrot. So there's these people who we have no solutions effectively, and we can, to whatever degree, accept it. But then there's communists who they think because they have solutions ideologically, they're quite incompatible with the tenets of modernity. Let's put it that way. If you don't want to say human nature, they're quite incompatible with the tenets of modernity. Modernity has led us into a kind of corner. And communist thinking, in order for it to be effective thinking, it's just unworkable within that corner. And you could say it's a bad corner, right? AI risks, countless other risks. People are worried, notably people who are the family men. Did you notice that, right? Did you notice that Sam Harris is far more worried about certain things that he ought to be? But it's not just societal. It's just he knows he's got two beautiful young daughters. And Lord, were something to happen to them because of all these maniacs who don't abide by institutional norms, he'll clean that up and say it nicer. But he thinks there's all these maniacs who have let go of institutions. It's I'm here to pose a different kind of challenge. I'm here to pose the kind of challenge do we really ever have collective knowledge? Does that really seep in? Does something of truth seep into each and every one of our brains? Individually speaking, we can only see a small part of the chessboard. Right, whether we're talking geopolitics, insofar as we often rely on this concept of collective knowledge, it's not some war between the establishment and then the truth tellers who are censored by the establishment. No, it's all these people telling you to not trust the establishment. They still have their own form of collective knowledge, often just circle jerks. But then there's a kind of way that each person is informed through these really, in many cases, online-only narratives. And Vatniks. I think at this point it is, that's the next level pejorative. Tanky is now too good for people who are still willing to, ultimately want to make it all about communism. So I said people who don't, back to the communism thing. So I said people who don't have solutions effectively and can't recognize that the effective part is not synonymous with the ideological part. That's in one part, the commies. And the other part is no, tanky is too good a term right now. Maybe you can be a tanky in some other really spectacularly stupid way, but not be a commie. But it's if you're still communist at this point, on the one hand, you don't have solutions effectively, you can't quite see it, And you kind of want to crowd out the people who do have, like, it's not up to your standard, I get it, but there's people who have some semblance of a solution effectively, and you kind of want to crowd them out with your non-effective ideological potion. That, could very well be disastrous. Again, if you want to say never again, no, you can't say never again if you want to try certain things again. I would say that to the begetters, right? The begetters can't say never again, and so the commie who wants to try certain kinds of things that have these, echoes and patterns when they've been tried, it's not always full-blown starvations, but, kind of it's been associated with a handful. You want to try things again, like who are the planners? You talk to me about the theory, but who right now? Like Marx is dead, right? The ones who were horrendous after Marx, they're all dead. Who are the next planners? Oh, you want to decentralize? Oh, tell me all about how you want to decentralize. Well, what the fuck is the problem then? Why doesn't American kind of localist ethos, why is that not a breeding ground for communism? Oh, is it because people are propagandized? See, you have no solutions effectively. You just claim, oh, they're propagandized. It's like America should have been a breeding ground for any kind of decentralist, slow-paced thing that ends up in communism, where it's like America is the polar opposite. They're bastardized by their anti-communism. But they can't even see, the modern ones can't even see the through lines and how it was achieved. It wasn't achieved through isolationism. They're every bit, rhetorically, they're every bit as anti-communist now. But they can't see how the ones that have passed had to play deep state ball to get certain things going. This is why Eisenhower was so pivotal during that fusionism period. If any books have been written on Eisenhower that go into that, I'd love to read them. There's just the current party is just nothing like the old party, but it's the same party. The current party is like the media is too easy on the MAGAs. It's always this media elite, blah blah blah. Hillary said half of us are deplorables. It's like, I wouldn't have been as nice. I would have said much worse, just in terms of your intelligence and your ability to assess things. Media is too nice. They don't make it about their stupidity and their I tell me what I want to hear ism. MAGAs are a special breed of tell me what I want to hear ism. But I'm just pointing out, America once upon a time was anti-communist effectively, and with isolationism it can't be anti whatever's currently bad effectively. Isolationism is not. You're just blinding yourself to certain encroaching bads. If you toe this line as a principle, like until they literally show up with their globalized military at your footsteps, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything to a globalized military because you're an isolationist. I mean, come on, give me a fucking break. But anyway, the communists are these Vatniks. They have to be Vatniks at this point, right? What is the track? Something that insults Birchers, and then the next track is Vatniks are dumber somehow. You'd have to be dumber somehow to be the commie. And so what else? I insulted Robert Wright. I insulted Sam Harris. It's true with Sam. I think were he not a family man, he would be a little more curious about what's, strictly speaking, true. Maybe delve into a few philosophical themes a bit more in the podcast. Maybe, rattle it up with some anti-begetter. Relatively, doesn't have to be Benatar again, but some, or it may be extremely obscure, not relatively obscure. Maybe dance it up with some extremely obscure anti-begetter who'll chew you out. You also have no right to say never again. Mr. I'm going to have Will McCaskill, Toby Ordon, and not push them on this. How do any of those people get to say never again, Sam? Oh, you're gonna think of it as strictly politically, Sam? You're so worried about the political stuff, the institution. You want people to be good little lap doggies and not think too hard about, okay, maybe it's not just the establishment, but what if it's just the whole... We've vastly overestimated the epistemic value of collective knowledge for each of our... Because we see how different collective knowledge is in different pockets of the world. It doesn't resemble itself. Collective, these things that we claim, these homegrown, clannish things that we take for granted, that we just think are baked into the... No. The establishment is wrong very much for the same reasons as alt media is often wrong. There's the groupism, but then there's also just... They all drink from their own wells of collective knowledge. And it looks so different in different pockets of the world, as well as it does in this blue-red thing in America. These are non-overlapping wells of knowledge, collective knowledge, is what so many people drink from, and they don't see that that's what's polluting your abilities just one-on-one have good conversations. You've drank too much from the well of collective knowledge, and I'm saying forge your own fucking knowledge path. And don't be so fucking worried about, people not trusting institutions. As long as they're not duped by the rival institutions, I don't quite mind that people are not trusting institutions less. No one has to be a bad actor. I've said it before, I'll say it again. No one has to intend to deceive people for collective knowledge to just crumble and be vastly overestimated. No one has to be. And so this is the kind of story you tell. When first and foremost, you're out to tell it how it is and not to preserve the social order and the stability because you're a family man. Who knows? He's got 2 beautiful daughters and a wife that he cares about a lot. Notice, it's the family men who are always a little unrattled in public discourse. It's not those of us who choose the wiser path. It's not those of us who lean back instead of leaning in to the cares and troubles of life. There, I'll do it again. It starts out the video, antenatal equanimity. No, we lean back so we can tell it how it is. We can be motivated by leaning back, by absolving ourselves of the many needless responsibilities of life, qua family, qua other kinds of entanglements that are just, they don't feed your brain. They're entanglements, they've got their highs, they've got their lows, but they don't feed the best of you. No, so you interrogate instead of associate. You prosecute instead of indulge when it comes to life. You do the armchair thing more. You lean back and do the armchair thing more. And so you're not even motivated to be worried about, people are abandoning institutional trust. Who gives a fuck? Why are they doing it? In some part, they've got a valid claim. But the Sam Harrises of the world, they can't help but be worried about that. They created a mess, and now they gotta do their best to make sure their mess doesn't get that much messier. The family stuff, it's just a rot. It's just a brain rot. You can't be motivated to just lean back and see the absurdism of it all. Right? That's why so many of the videos have taken on a comedic slant. I'm not strictly seeing things through a pessimistic lens. No, much of the time nowadays, I'm seeing things through an absurdist lens. And I think, I don't know, would you consider forget about what you believe as just a philosophy, but how you see things perception-wise, it's a pessimistic lens, but then probably more than half the time at this point, if I'm really thinking about what I'm observing, it's why the audios are so damn sardonic. It's because I'm seeing things now through that absurdist lens that's been written about by Sartre, at least, and many others. You could say maybe Nietzsche was an absurdist beyond anything else. Nietzsche understood. Nietzsche loved life, but Nietzsche understood life was absurd. Check it out. 3 podcasts just in a span of 5 days by Ezra. Ezra is working overtime since the debate. Ezra is working all kinds of overtime. The best of these 3, I didn't hear the last one. This was just dropped, but this was the best. It was a short 17-minute one, to the point, because he wants it to circulate. So I guess I'll do my part a bit and help circulate it. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm not helping anything circulate. But, it's Ezra, and he's working overtime, clearly. I prefer the old picture, Ezra. You should have stuck with the old picture. But let's play some of this.
The Democrats should do what political parties did in presidential elections until the 1970s.
This one was also good, but this was before the debate. But this one was also good. But just about the higher prices, getting into the weeds. It's what they do. They're wonks. So he got into the weeds on the ultra-protectionism. Trump's not just a regular protectionist. He's this ultra-protectionist. But, everything is, a zero-sum contest between nations, so they go for it. Everything's a zero-sum contest between nations, but, comparative advantage. But let's just forget about comparative advantage. The things the Dems don't get, let's just forget about that, because everything has to be framed as a zero-sum contest between nations, even between our allies. So this was a good one, too. He brought on some, I guess, econ people. So maybe I'm not crazy about the econ people.
Is a ticket
when framed as experts. It's like the economy's too damn big to house in any single person's brain.
At their convention. In public, the backlash I got from top Democrats was ferocious.
So that's the backlash to his February podcast where he came out and said, Biden shouldn't run for re-election. We got to get someone fresh, Forgot exactly what he said about the specifics, but yeah, he came out in February against Biden having a second term, and now he's going to describe the ferocious, I think he said, ferocious feedback.
I was a bedwetter.
A bedwetter.
Living inside an Aaron Sorkin.
Whereas, like, it was clear, even before 2020, it was clear that, you know, this guy's Pop's noggin ain't what it used to be. Gramps noggin ain't what it used to be. Let's think this out. But no, they didn't think this out.
Fantasyland. In private, their feedback was more tentative and thoughtful and frightened.
In private it was different than it was in public. Methinks there are strategists about everywhere.
No one tried to persuade me that Biden was a strong candidate. They argued
why live the kind of life where you get to say things, you know, out loud that you think? Why live that kind of life when you can be a noble strategist?
Said that he couldn't be convinced to step aside. That even if he could...
So good old Joe, it's not his fault, he's old, he's got the heart of gold. But see, it's about him. He couldn't be convinced to step aside. So no, maybe he doesn't have the heart of gold. Maybe he's a retard both mentally and morally. You know, one of the things that happened a few months ago that no one really caught wind of that I saw, but they were asked, like, so Mr. Biden, would you prefer to run against Nikki Haley or Donald Trump? And he said, oh, it doesn't really matter who I run against. So it's like all this stuff about Trump being the most dangerous person, and they just asked him, I think he was getting on a jet or something, and it was just one of these reporters, and Biden said, yeah, I don't really care who I face, I'll beat them both. It's like, all this freaking stuff you said about Trump being the gravest danger, and then it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's Nikki Haley or Trump. It's like, what the fuck? How did no one cover that?
That Vice President Kamala Harris would lose the election. That even if a convention passed over Harris, that passing her over would alienate black women. They argued not that Joe Biden was strong.
Oh, God, it's just so stupid. How can you even be wrapped up in it when it's just so stupid, what he just said? It's true, it would, but it's like, that just shows that, you know, people haven't learned to even just... They haven't learned to function without diapers. This is the equivalent of a party that hasn't even learned to function without everyone's wearing ID diapers, identitarian diapers. Like, you really should have outgrown your diapers by now, you fucking retards.
But that the Democratic Party was weak, that it had no other options, that it didn't have the legitimacy or the muscle to do something else.
Well, and now you've pooped the bed, because now you gotta do something else with less time.
Believe that. I think Democrats should give themselves a little bit more credit. Biden's presidency is proof of the Democratic Party's ability to act strategically. Biden didn't win the Democratic nomination in 2020 because he set the hearts of party activists.
Yeah, it was coordination. They wanted through party coordination. You can say parties exist for that exact reason, you know, to keep the militants out. But anyway, people will deny there were militants. Yeah, this whole thing is good, and I'll have more to say about the debate in probably future uploads, because this is, again, another one that's overstuffed, so I can't do the really recent thing, but this is a really recent thing, and yeah, hooray for last minute stuff. And now we resume to the regular, older, scheduled programming that's much, much older, because I just can't stop myself. Man, look at it go. Look at it go.
The first universities to fully reboot a commitment to Enlightenment values. No more money from Qatar, you idiots. No more stealth Islamism in your departments of Middle Eastern studies. No more reverse racism against Asian and white applicants. No more...
No, that's not fair. 1.25 for Sammy. Sammy! Flying off the handle again. Sammy.
Identitarian victim culture. No more dousing for racists. No more whinging about Halloween costumes.
1.5.
No more intersectional arsonists pretending to put out fires that they started. Just great books and great teachers and real research.
God, this came out after I ranted about the stuff I ranted about earlier.
And no more fuck.
It's like he heard the rant before I uploaded my rant about him. This whole podcast, the campus protest, anti-Semitism, Western values, it's not that it's fact-free. It has a very strong first 6 or 7 minutes, and then it descends to polemics as arguments. Now, I'm allowed to do that because I file my stuff under comedy. He files his stuff under maybe the most serious man alive right now is Sam Harris. The most serious thinker alive right now, Sam Harris. You can't indulge polemics if you do that, if you bill yourself seriously.
In apologies, the first elite schools to do that will win so much support and goodwill, and an avalanche of applications and donors They'll solidify their
Well, I guess then not everyone has lost their minds, right? I mean, it's also just kind of a bit inconsistent.
reputations into the next century. I wouldn't even know where I would want to send my daughters to college at this
My daughters?
point. I mean, happily, we don't have to think about this for a couple of years. But all the
I was like, was I unfair? I say, is it really about him worrying about his family? It's like, maybe I was unfair. Maybe he does worry impartially. He's like, no, he knew I recorded that and decided to preempt me and say, no, you were right. I am really worried about my famine. My ethnic identity. It has all the aesthetics. He's got more facts on his side, but it's got the aesthetic of a man who feels targeted. This is what a man looks like, who doesn't think for the sake of just seeing it and telling it how it is. This is a man who is unnerved. He uses the word alarmed many times here.
best schools, and even the second and third best schools, appear to be in the process of destroying themselves.
Destroy is yet another word. Like I said, the word fight is often misused, and destroy, like things just don't, things just don't wane. No, things get destroyed. No, actually, things truly just wane. Scarcely does something get destroyed, but the people who think that because they're ultra partisan, they're fighters, those are the very kinds of people who are inclined to use destroy instead of, wane.
Again, I realize it's a minority of students protesting on even the most beleaguered campuses, but it's the response of the institutions themselves that has been so reprehensible. Now, as a result of all this, there is a widespread sense in the Jewish community that more must be done to combat anti-Semitism.
In your community, essentially. I mean, you're doing... What is the takeaway? It's that 95% of the time you say positive things about the Jewish/Israeli. It's a bright line between good and evil for Sammy.
Even a bill that's just passed the House of Representatives, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act.
I guess this is the other 5% of the time he's gonna neg that bill,
which would make it easier for Jews to make civil rights complaints. Unfortunately, this bill seems to conflate certain criticisms of Israel with anti-Semitism.
Oh, wait.
Frankly, most people who claim to be anti-Zionist at this point are probably also anti-Semitic.
My phone can't drink coffee. What was I doing?
This is pretty obvious from what they're saying and what they're not saying. It used to be the case that you could be anti-Zionist without being anti-Semitic. My friend Christopher Hitchens certainly was that.
It used to be. Now, remember Scott Alexander's posts? Don't drastically alter your belief, some core belief, because of these, these events that are, atmospheric, these atmospheric events that are billed as changing the atmosphere. Like the 7th, but he changed. He's about to fest to it. He changed a core thing here. After the 7th, he understands.
Was sort of that at one point, but I'm not sure it's a position one can truly occupy now. October 7th changed my thinking on this.
Just like 9/11 was this big shape-shifting event. And Sam reads Scott. That's the thing too. Scott said, "Don't let this happen. Don't let some catastrophic how did he put it? Catastrophic big-time event or something like that." I say a few things about that post in The Great Repression, so that's where its title is. But, one of these, highly covered events, it's shouldn't alter any serious belief.
I remain uncomfortable with the concept of any sort of religious ethno-state. But given the murderous anti-Semitism of so much of the world, given that almost every country that has had a population of Jews...
I mean, it is the case that the ones who are most bothered by ID poll are the ones who can't see at least their own... This has the aesthetic of ID poll, but he's got a few more facts on his side than the typical ID poll type. But it seems that it's just he can't see how based on what he's doing, it seems like he's othering others who do the same thing.
Jews has at some point actively persecuted them and driven them out. Literally, almost any country you can name in Europe or North Africa or the Middle East has done this at some point. Given the tolerance of this reality by billions of onlookers, well, then the Jews clearly need a state of their own, and it should defend...
Well, it probably happened to the gypsies, too.
...itself without apology.
Now, I do wonder if these days it's so bad that a skit... This is one... how rap has its skits? Well, sometimes, punk groups had skits. And I wonder if it's as bad with copyright that even though it's an old thing, that's a punk thing, and it's just a skit... it's still subject, because it's such an assembly line, it's still subject to copyright. I guess I'll find out, depending on how disastrous this video does. The ones that contain these sensitive things, they just do disastrously. But I'm an adventurer, so I don't care, so I'll try this, because this is pivotal to Sammy.
Do you want the family man or do you want the swinging man?
See, this is, I played this for a friend, and I couldn't, I knew this was charming as hell, but I just couldn't quite articulate to him, and he couldn't see it. This is way back in the day when I was trying to push punk stuff on my stupid friends. Notably BR, but sometimes these other, at least tracks, because this is just so charming. But you know, I articulated it damn well now, reference to Sammy, but it made me take a trip down memory lane.
You choose.
From scratch.
Do you want the family man or do you want the swinging man? You choose.
Family man.
You get the family man. Family man. Family man. Family man. With your glances my way, taking no chances on the new day. Family man. Family man with your life all planned, your little sandcastle built, smiling through your guilt. Family man. Here I come. Here I come, family man. I come to infect. I come to rape your woman. I come to take your children into the street.
Okay, maybe that's why my friend was a bit creeped out and I couldn't really articulate and give a, you know, thoroughgoing defense of it, yeah. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, like kind of one of those charming Kevin Spacey characters who go crazy, absolutely morally indefensible crazy, but you still root for them in the movie, you know? It's not like Jeremy Irons. It's a more charming one like Kevin Spacey, but he's doing awful things, but you still kind of cheer for him. It's that kind of whole thing. But yeah, he said some naughty stuff.
Family man. I come to infect. I come to be a creepy Kevin Spacey. Rape your woman.
But he was cleared of all charges. Let's just understand that too.
I come to take your children into the street. I come for you, family man. Family man.
But I just come to debunk them and how they're too worried about the order and not worried enough about what, strictly speaking, makes sense. But he's got a podcast called Making Sense. How can I not go off on him?
With your Christmas lights already up.
Maybe he doesn't do that.
You're such a man when you're putting up your Christmas lights. First on the block. Family man.
Tim Allen.
Family man.
It's a track about Tim Allen and Tim the Toolman Taylor. I can do a lot of gender commentary about that show, Home Improvement. I just might in the future.
I want to crucify you on your front door with nails from your well-stocked garage.
But yeah, it just made me think about youth and how I tried to explain the charm of this, and I probably failed worse than maybe I did better, but I don't remember it. But because it was such a long time ago, I probably failed. And then I was disappointed in my friend for not being able to get it. But this is a charming as hell track. It's just most of the things you wanna explain to these people who's, you know, you're entangled with them during youth, but you're not at your best in terms of your mind during youth. And so you look back at a lot of these things you try to push on people, and you're like, I just wish my current brain could be implanted in my former self so I can give it the full-fledged defense I gave it. I was going off on Sam and how it just blinds him.
Raj.
I think this is ultimately about people who worry too much because they have families. And how certain other people, because society is arranged to the advantage of the warriors, certain other kinds of maybe free spirits are driven to the brink of moral madness and maybe step into moral madness because they see the accommodation going all one way, all the family way. And there's groups, sanctimonious groups, like focus on the family, that want to make those problems worse. So of course you're gonna have punk style. Of course you're gonna have that resentment.
Family man, family man.
It was just as a youth, it was all intuition. You couldn't find the tongue for it, much less the right way to tongue lash it.
Family man, Saint Dad, Father on fire. I've come to incinerate you.
I've come home.
You're on fire.
I've
come to incinerate you. I've come home.
Bitchin'. Man, look at it go.
If I condemned my father to death, then you should be worried. Because if it comes down to 15 million Jewish innocent people and 300 million Arab clowns, I will choose the 15 million innocent people who did not start this war. If I have to choose between 1.6 billion Muslims and a cow, I will choose the cow.
Oh, yeah? Yeah! Oh,
You know what it is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's every Twitter exchange. It's every Twatter exchange. Jew versus Muslim representatives. Not even Jews versus Muslim. I'm saying they're representatives. It's every single Twitter exchange.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But except it doesn't end. It just, every day you log on.
Neener, I'm the stud and you're the wiener.
Yeah.
Duckman.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Every day, a bunch of new twats.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now, an example of something where he would be much more persuasive if he explained how he knows what he claims to know. I'm going to let him go for about a minute, and then he says something, well, minute and 1.5, and then he says something where it's like, well, how do you know that? You need to explain.
In his book, Terror and Liberalism. Similarly, people assume that groups like Hamas or Al-Qaeda or even the Islamic State attack Western targets for more or less normal political reasons. They think these movements are anti-colonial or straightforwardly nationalistic. And so they think that the extremity of their violence is once again at bottom the fault of Western powers. The chickens have finally come home to roost. While understandable, these assumptions have been obviously wrong for decades, for longer than I've been alive, even. To believe any of this now, as almost every secular person does by default, certainly is...
This is not the part he has to prove. It's just, I gotta set it up.
You move left of center, politically, is to be totally deluded by a masochistic fantasy. And it's a dangerous fantasy because it's being consciously weaponized against not just Israel, but against every Western society. Islamic extremists know that most of us, especially in our elite institutions, are simply drunk on white guilt.
So he says a few more things, but to me it seems like an extraordinary claim that Islamic extremists are making decisions based on their knowledge of how elite Western universities operate. I'm not going to dismiss it whole cloth, but how do you know? How do you know what's in their brains? It seems plausible, but that's not enough. That's not enough to make the claim, but he makes more claims.
And self-doubt. They can see...
So it's like, yes, they're self-doubtful. And see, it's the exact kind of thing that a nativist would say. That we have to doubt ourselves less because it's to the advantage of our opponents. Where it's like, well, regardless of whether or not self-doubt, or I guess collective societal doubt, irrespective of whether or not that's to the advantage of the opponents, like if it's just true that things are worth doubting because it's an uncertain world, I'm not going to change how I am. I'm not going to posture certainty because there's other fanatical people all over the world who will society versus society style take advantage of my little, yeah, let's question things and let's insert doubt. Doubt is cognitively healthy. No, I'm not going to posture just because others, or at least he would claim that others would take advantage of that. But how the fuck do you know what's in those people's brains?
See that we live in a perpetual circular firing squad of sanctimony. They know that if they just use the word racism, even though it has absolutely no application, when we're talking about the fastest growing religion in 100 countries, they know this word settles all arguments.
Maybe some of the Western PR Islam groups would take advantage of that, but the jihadist level folks, they don't give a shit about any of that, I would contend.
Left of center, no matter how idiotic the person is who wields it. They know that we are constantly worried about being the bad guys. They know that our kids find it very easy to believe that we are and have always been the bad guys. And they have been...
Do you think, average viewer, do you think that's a part of their toolkit in terms of how they approach things strategically, the Islamic extremists, or do they just kind of spend most of their time looking at what's a decent place to blow up? I think they spend most of their time not analyzing how silly our universities have gotten. I shouldn't say our. They're not in any way my universities just because I happen to be regionally close to them. No, they're Western universities. But I don't think that's part of the Islamist toolkit. Maybe CAIR, maybe that organization CAIR and a few other ones, like the Western ones, Western radical Muslims. But no, the ones who are doing most of the jihad stuff, they don't give a shit about any of that. It's all logistics and so how do we successfully blow this place up or that place up and stuff like that. But Sam's just putting it in his brain that because it's plausible that they too would care, that therefore they must care as well. Every radical Muslim group organization is like, ooh, there's wokies in Western universities. Let's use that to our advantage. I really don't think they give a shit.
Manipulating Western society for decades. And they've been aided by legions of useful idiots on the left. And so there's a pervasive inability and even unwillingness.
I just think it's a small chunk of the Islamist movement. I don't think there's this great coordination. I don't really think the Houthis, I don't think Hezbollah, I don't think Hamas, I don't think there's some pipeline between them and CAIR where it's like they ask CAIR every morning, hey, so what do you guys have on the Western dupes today? I don't think those groups call up CAIR and ask, what do you have on the Western dupes today? How can we joint session utilize this information to get yet another one over on the dupes? I don't think there's any such coordination. Sam seems to be thinking there's more coordination
On the part of journalists and politicians and scholars to recognize the degree to which sincere religious belief and identity drive conflict in the Muslim world.
Now that is true, right? That's not a silly claim. That is true, and I would say he's got his classics. But as of late, he goes well beyond the classics, and he seems to. There's another part here where he says he's so tired of talking about this, but then he has to. It's like, no, you don't have to. I'll get to that part actually. I'll play it.
Who would imagine that the explicit denial of political equality for women might have something to do with its absence throughout the Muslim world? Even noticing the connection here between explicit religious doctrines and the unambiguous abridgment of human rights is thought to be a symptom of, quote, Islamophobia. So I want to make a couple of basic observations.
I should do an insertion of a laugh track anytime he says Islamophobia.
About Islam that have the virtue of being important and uncontroversial. Or at least they should be uncontroversial because they're quite obviously true. And if you think I've said all this before and it bores you, well, then just think about how I feel.
So right there, an admission that should be pretty damaging to a person's reputation. That he doesn't really want to talk about things, but he doesn't talk about what he finds the most, fruitful, what he finds the most intellectually rewarding, or just what is he actually most curious about. It's not about that, because he's a worried person. Now, I've explained why I think he's excessively worried, and we're a person to lean back instead of leaning in to the cares and troubles of life by not having a family. Well, one such person wouldn't be quite as worried to think that he can, to think that it's just kosher to admit publicly that I'm not talking about what I really want to talk about. I'm repetitive. I hate that I'm repetitive, but it's just so important. It's just so important to make an impact on this more than any other. Let's play him back.
I wouldn't touch this topic ever again if I thought other people were doing an adequate job of it. There's a spell that...
But it's all there, Sam. Your archives are not hard to find. So why do you think it has to be done over and over? Because you're just that desperate to change the world, because you're just that traumatized or something. Maybe traumatized is too much. But you're desperate. You want them to agree with you, and they don't. And you think if you just, like the next output, they'll agree with you. Those who dismiss you the first gajillion times, well, if you just do the next one, they'll listen. Why do you think that? And even if a few do, why would you compromise your whole trajectory of your career because you're that desperate to change the world? Because you're a worrier.
That simply has to be broken here. Yeah. So I want to make a couple of basic observations about Islam that have the virtue of being important and uncontroversial. Or at least they should be uncontroversial because they're quite obviously true.
Listen.
And if you think I've said all this before and it bores you, well, then just think about how I feel.
I do spend a lot of my time thinking about how you feel, and I can't quite figure you out. The one big thing is the worry factor. You can't see how this is all pointless. You can just point people to the archives. You can just re-upload the archives and just say, this is an old one, please re-listen to it. I guess you can't retweet it anymore because you're so noble for having left Twatter, right? But then I guess, you can't do the old stuff. So you got to drop a brand new one. So if it's a brand new one and it's mostly interchangeable with the old one,
touch this topic ever,
it's going to somehow have a higher chance of making an impact. It doesn't work that way. The blockheads who dismiss you the first time, as in said you have nothing factual to add, there's nothing in this one that's different that's going to make those blockheads kind of take the cinder blocks out of their head.
Again, if I thought other people were doing an adequate job of it.
So no one else is doing an adequate job of it. Isn't Bill Maher? Haven't you given props to Bill Maher? And he does it with an air of levity too, so it's kind of better.
A spell that simply has to be broken here because it threatens to ruin everything. And if you don't see it, as many don't, you are just blind.
But there's a little bit of an irony too in the fact that you've so denounced conspiratorial thinking, but you're reaching to find coordination, a larger kind of strand of coordination in the Muslim world, and sometimes, the Western homegrown Muslim world, or the Western, anchor child Muslim world. You're so reaching to find coordination there, but then in all these other instances, you denounce conspiratorial thinking. But there's shades of conspiratorial thinking to you, in the sense that you really do think that, like, the Houthis talk to CAIR or communicate with CAIR or some other groups more than they likely do. But maybe I should play, because
From the point of view of Islam, our world is divided into two realms.
I'll give the devil his due. The beginning of the podcast was strong because he talked about certain donations, so I don't dismiss everything, because he talked about certain donations from the naughty groups to Western universities, and maybe I should go back there and play it.
Chinese, as though ethnically Chinese Americans, or even Chinese nationals, at death, and just happen to be harassing the wrong people.
Okay, I can't find it now. But yeah, he talked about certain donations from outfits that shouldn't have any business donating to, free inquiry style universities, because those outfits clearly don't believe in free inquiry. So, there's remnants of pipelines, but the kind of pipeline he's imagining in terms of coordination, it doesn't exist. So he's redundant, he's a little paranoid, and he's a lot worried. And it's because he's got a family.
Rather, many of them are supporting injustice and cruelty and innocent death.
That's about the students.
Explicitly, globalize the Intifada isn't a call for peace. It's a call for the indiscriminate murder of Jews. I mean, I'm willing to cut college kids a fair amount of slack, but you mean to tell me that students at Harvard and Princeton and Stanford don't know that Palestinian intifadas entail a fair amount of suicidal terrorism and the deliberate murder of non-combatants? The deliberate murder of non-combatants.
It's just another kind of rhetorical cascade. Words change meaning based on group dynamics and ideological dynamics. It's just another one of those, right? Like anyone who's read Orwell's Politics in the English Language will know to just accept this. Like, this will always happen insofar as people will reach for things to make them feel true and righteous. So obviously language is always going to be abused and misused for ideological advantageous ends. There's no reason to think that we would have solved that problem by now. That problem's baked into the human noggin dance.
I might have been confused about a few things when I was 19, but I was never that confused. How did these kids get so turned around? Well, there are many reasons, but here's one. Qatar, the petrostate.
Qatar, I should have remembered what he said. It was Qatar. So this is a kind of good example, but it doesn't quite show that the coordination is what he seems to present it as, that it's really damn near universal.
Has given tens of billions of dollars to U.S., Canadian, and British universities. Qatar has given more money to Western universities than any other country on earth.
And they've accepted it.
The regime that controls Qatar is directly governed by the theology of the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Hamas is an offshoot. Where Jews are concerned, the Muslim Brotherhood is a fusion of Islamism and Nazism, and actually genocidal.
So see, I'm fair cop. There's kind of reasons why he would think this way, but I just think he can't see that he's gone down the very kind of rabbit hole that he doesn't, that he bitches about endlessly, like when QAnon goes down similar enough rabbit holes. Like, George Soros really does fund all these groups that they keep bitching about. And it's like, okay, so Qatar funds these groups that, Qatar funds the universities that Sam really hates. So it's like, Sam, I don't want to say here you're doing reverse QAnon, but you're flirting with it, and it's kind of worth a mention.
In intent. Through another radical group, American Muslims for Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood funds the student group that has been one of the primary organizers of these protests.
Yeah, so just a mirror image. Look, Soros is funding so-and-so, Schwab is... Schwab probably funds, Klaus Schwab probably funds a lot of groups that the QAnon folk don't like. And, you're kind of doing that, Sam. You're kind of pointing out what QAnon folks point out.
Students for Justice in Palestine.
Yeah.
They also fund a group of very confused Jews at these protests.
And you also use the word confused way too fucking much as of late. And now watching myself, just to give myself flack for not being quicker on my feet. No, to just comedically accept this. Like, this will always happen insofar as people will reach for things to make them feel true and righteous. So obviously language is always going to be abused. Now, I said reach, and we're talking about kids who were turned around. Sam's going to say there were these kids who were turned around. How could I not see it the first time? And misused for ideological advantageous ends. There's no reason to think that we would have solved that problem by now. That problem's baked into the human noggin dance.
I might have been confused about a few things when I was 19, but I was never that confused. How did these kids get so turned around?
How do I reach these kids? The one big thing is the worry factor. Yeah, just another clip of what you just saw, because I got one more remark to make that I didn't catch the first time. You can't see how this is all pointless. You can just point people to the archives. You can just re-upload the archives and just say, this is an old one, please re-listen to it. I guess you can't retweet it anymore, because you're so noble for having left Twatter, right? But not necessarily sarcasm, but he is not noble though. he's not noble for having left. Because why didn't he do what I did? Why didn't he just keep the account so he can read twats, and just from a distance, thumb his nose at it? No, he left Twatter as in, it's not just he's gonna stop twatting, but no, he has to terminate the account. And what was his reasoning? It's he started to hate people, and he couldn't stand hating people because it was well, how did he put it? He was getting a false picture of people, a false representation, a false sample. But then, realistically, the way he describes the madness surrounding the fact that people can't recognize these very simple things, he's not just talking about the crazy people on Twatter. He's talking about universities. He's talking about many other institutions. So it's like he left Twatter because he just couldn't cope with the idea that he was going to live in a world where most people truly are hateable. And that's the other aspect of him that's kind of, the pro-social aspect. He just can't accept. It is indeed a world, Sam, where most people, they're not just misled. Most people are worthy of your hate, and that's okay because it doesn't mean it's going to make you violent. But see, what I described earlier, what opens up this video, it's like I got that Twatter account because I couldn't see tweet, and I just used the Twatter account to see tweets /twats. And yeah, it all sucks, but I'm just so, I'm just so used to it. And I'm just so, I just almost enjoy the kind of looking down at all those people. But no, he can't enjoy that same thing. He has to, he has to put lipstick on people, so he left Twatter. But even though he left Twatter, he does nothing but bitch about all these other people who aren't even on Twatter, like the university professors and admins and all that crap. I actually clicked this, but no, I need to click this. Then I guess, you can't do the old stuff. So you got to drop a brand new one. So if it's but yeah, he had to leave Twatter because he was starting to hate people and we can't have that. It's like, why the fuck not? I guess you can't retweet it anymore because you're so... He can retweet it in the sense that Making Sense is still on Twatter. I didn't even catch that right away. He hates Twatter as himself, but he's all too happy to make use of Twatter as the Making Sense podcast. So he can pimp it there. So he doesn't even have the excuse that I gave him. You're so noble for having left Twatter, right? But the Making Sense as a podcast didn't leave Twatter, and Sam's okay with that. So one less excuse. But then I guess, you can't do the old stuff, so you got to drop it. The big thing is the worry factor. Yeah. God, once again, it's the very thing I bitch about. Are we destroy? And then weeks and months later, and I see more of it, right? It really should be the case. If I make the point, I should see the stupid thing less. Are we destroying America? Things don't just sway. No, they get destroyed. So I say something here. I'm not going to correct it in the video itself. I'm not going to correct it in Kantian signaling, but I say something here that I understand totally sounds condescending and is part of why things get even more entrenched, but I believe it to be true, but I'm not gonna kind of make note of it that I realize it sounds condescending to them, but this is what I say.
When they realize they're not gonna get anything better, like they
that is the Palestinians. I'm talking about Camp David.
Like Arafat held out the first time. He held out because he thought he would get something even better. A state with a navy or airspace or stuff like that. It's like
sovereignty, properly speaking.
You guys got to prove it. You guys got to prove that you can be disciplined enough to do it before you get, a fully fledged sovereign state.
So obviously it sounds like favoritism to them because, well, how come the Jews, look at all the horrible things Jews did to us and they don't have to prove anything. Why are we, the victims, having to be made to prove anything? So I get it. It's going to sound incredibly condescending, but the video is too stuffed, so I can't point out the counter, and the counter is, I guess, you guys are just wrong.
That was about as good a deal as they were going to get in Camp David in 2000. The thing clicked.
Yeah, so it's like, someone comes and tries to kick me out of my home, I'm going to fight, right? And maybe even someone comes and tries to kick Pops out of his home, but I'm still living with Pops. Yeah, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to view them as the aggressor. But if, like, my grandpappy or my great-great-grandpappy got kicked out of his house, and then whatever, 80 years later, I feel that I'm entitled to wage war because my great-grandpappy got kicked out of his house. It wasn't even a house that I live in. Let's say I haven't even met my great-grandpappy. But I feel that I have nothing to prove now and violence is justified. It's like, no, it's only justified when you're literally being kicked out of your house, not when your freaking bloodline, your stupid fam is being kicked out of their house. So yeah, you guys did the fucking Antifada. You've got to prove it. You've got to prove that you can be discipline, as the term, the words I used here. Because you weren't literally, as an individual, you weren't deprived of anything. It was just in the 40s. You guys got to get over the 40s. It was bad. I understand, the Arabs, the Palestinians, the mandate Palestinians who fought then. Absolutely, they came. But there were also some of these, financial transactions, as I understand. So it wasn't all. The Nakba wasn't all, grievance. It was all, some of it was, hey, they're offering us some sweet cash for this. But yeah, that's why you guys can't prove it, is because you both did the Intifada, the Palestinians, and the other Palestinians kind of supported the Intifada because they feel like if the great grandpappy is kicked out of his house, it's as if I'm being kicked out of my house. Like, no, you ain't your great grandpappy. You're an individual. You, and you, and you, and you, and you, all you people. You should understand. You ought to stop leaning into the group identity. It's a shame that Hill Dog is kind of where I paused.
Together.
Let's see if I... Yeah, okay, there we go. Well, Hill Dog is still in the image. God.
That held out because it wasn't anywhere close to a full-fledged thing. It's like, you guys did the Intifadas.
There we go. I say it there, but, it's still going to sound condescending because I didn't make clear that there's a distinction between your great-grandpappy being, Nakbad versus you being Nakbad.
With a full-fledged thing yet. As the Germans couldn't be.
There we go. There we go. I covered my bases here. Look at it go. Pop quiz. What's the one thing that's more amusing than hearing me LARP ass static? 3, 2, 1. It's actually seeing the static.
They also used the money to establish clandestine organizations, which are spreading around the world in order to destroy societies and...
That's okay. That's not why I'm recording it. That was just accidental. But he's reading Hamas on the Jews, and so I have quick thoughts.
Carry out Zionist interests. Such organizations are...
But let's kind of sprint through this a bit here and there.
The Freemasons, Rotary Club...
Because I hadn't read directly Hamas on the Jews, I have to admit. I hadn't read Hamas on the Jews, but I'm glad he's doing it because, boy, howdy.
Clubs, Lions Clubs, Benai...
Sam Harris has his classics, and I guess the Islamists have their classics. This is kind of Islamist Classics.
Berith, and the like. All of them are destructive spying organizations, the alumni. They also used the money to take over control of the imperialist states and made them colonize many countries in order to exploit the wealth of those countries and spread their corruption therein. As regards local and world wars, it has come to pass, and no one objects, that they stood behind World War I so as to wipe...
But it gets better. The Jews are not guilt-free for World War II either.
...without the Islamist Caliphate. They collected material gains and took control of many sorts...
I mean, this is... I'm not going to say it.
...of wealth. They obtained the
I could say something now.
...for a declaration and established the League of Nations in order to rule the world by means of that organization. They also stood behind World War II, where they collected immense benefits.
I mean, 99% of this is such crazy stuff. 99% though.
Trading with war materials and prepared for the establishment of their state. They inspired the establishment of the United Nations and the Security Council to replace the League of Nations in order to rule the world by their intermediary. There was no war that broke out anywhere without their fingerprints on it. As often as they light a fire for war, Allah extinguishes it.
It's still 99% false.
Their efforts is for corruption in the land, and Allah loves not corrupters.
I mean, like when I get 99% on a test, which like never happens, but like if I remember exams back in the day, I don't think who wouldn't be happy with 99%? But so if this is 99% wrong, Jews have nothing to worry about.
The forces of imperialism in both the capitalist West and communist East support the enemy with all their might in material and human terms, taking turns between themselves. When Islam appears, all the forces of unbelief unite to confront it because the community of unbelief is one.
Jesus, it's like ethylism.
And we should just do like a study of what the fuck is the word I'm looking for?
Kefir?
If you have the beliefs that Hamas...
This is about apostasy and global domination on religious grounds. You must be looking for the word kafir.
...is talking about, the goal is...
I know I'm wrong about that, but shh.
...essentially to have a global caliphate, right? If you're an Islamist organization and you believe fundamentally in a lot of the things that they talk about in their charter, is it the Ummah? Isn't this supposed to essentially become like the whole religion of the world is the goal? Like all the other religions are unbelievers or enemies of Islam and don't share the same belief, no? I'm not saying that all Muslims believe this, but I'm saying that if you believe like in this very fundamentalist version of Islam, then
we're screwed.
I think it's
we're screwed.
Of it.
We're screwed.
Homage is a reference to all believers. Yeah, that's right.
This was supposed to be part of this video, always again with Cartman. So Cartman fails at never again because he keeps taking stabs at people, but then they have, they have comebacks for him. He wants to jab them on the lookist front, and then because he's fat, they jab him right back. But then he fantasizes about losing all this weight. And anyway, this was supposed to be part of this video, but I posted it on Community First just to check, test the waters for copyright. But I figured there's no way anything would happen because I didn't play any audio from the episode. I just played my laptop. But that was still enough to get the thing, copyrighted content, blocked globally. So I don't know, I don't know where to put it, but it's here if you want to watch it. I can still watch it. I don't know if it's weird. It says it's blocked globally, but I can still watch it as an unlisted video, but maybe no one else can. I guess I can just log out of my channel and see if it's viewable, but I don't feel like doing that, so I'm just going to do this instead. But anyway, so I did a post then about the fact that it got blocked. Just saw this. Says the unlisted clip from yesterday can't be played on YouTube, but I'm still... Anyway, that's not interesting. The interesting part is, mid-post, I just figured, oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing the internet wrong again. Biden did bad last night, blah, blah, blah. The American people deserve better, blah, blah, blah. I'm worried, blah, blah, blah. Hey, how about that Newsom, blah, blah, blah. More sentences overusing the word America, blah, blah, blah. How do I reach these Denny's dining in Iowa MAGAs? Blah, blah, blah. Conceptual rigor, nowhere to be found, blah, blah, blah. Called a serial liar some more, thinking you're doing something other than wasting your breath/neurons. Blah, blah, blah. We're not the shining city on a hill no more. Blah, blah, blah. If only my favorite tankies were in charge. Blah, blah, blah. The cost of living is insane, but let's tell people to have more kids anyway. Or just more needless indulgences anyway. After all, mass overspending keeps our macro econ scheme afloat. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, and let's never remind aggrieved grocery shoppers to obtain those awesome discount cards, like the Morse card, that saved me, that's literally me here, now it's literally about me, that saved me thousands of dollars over the years and are somehow catch-free. Blah, blah, blah. Our punditry has never been this inane, blah, blah, blah. It probably has for ages, and that's you as me now, and you've merely succumbed to recency bias, or whatever it's called. Scene. So, I often think I'm going to start a community post just bitching about something, and then midway through I'm like, well, nobody cares about my drama. My what's copyright stricken versus not drama. So let's actually, be more relatable. Let's be more relatable. But it's like, I can't, because the moment I go into trying to be relatable mode, I go into condescending ridicule mode, because that's what it sounds like. That's what it all sounds like. It's interspersed with blah, blah, blahs, and it's cyclical. And there's not an ounce of conceptual rigor in any of it. And yet the emotion that people expend on it proves to me, all those people they're living in a different world. They're living in a low resolution world. The fact that you can be so wrapped up to not see I've just fucking summarized all their faults in this paragraph, the punditry faults. I've summarized it all. It's got nothing to do with who they're rooting for. It's got to do with everything else in terms of how they comport themselves. American people deserve better. Fuck you. A mass of people, some mass can deserve or not deserve something. The moment you think some great mass can deserve or not deserve something, you're not thinking like an individualist. You ought to always think like an individualist. But you'll fail if you spend so much time being worried. How about that Newsom, though? Seriously, I would, given a choice between Newsom and Biden, no joking here, 100% serious, I'd pick Newsom at this point. And I didn't even see the debate. I just saw like maybe 10 seconds of a clip on Twatter. I saw like 10 seconds of a clip on Twatter, and I'm like, yeah, it's gotten worse. You could say maybe Nietzsche was an absurdist beyond anything else. Nietzsche understood. Nietzsche loved life, but Nietzsche understood life was absurd. Yeah, that won't do. life was absurd. I can't just, no, that's maybe a secondary or tertiary feature of life. It's absurdity. I can't leave the impression that now that's going to be like the primary or the prime. It's just the way I view things. You believe specific things, and then there's just the way you see things, because you're not on 24/7. So just the way I see things is absurd, but that's not the primary thing about life. Primary thing about life, some people think life is just lovely. They think it's unfair, but otherwise it's just lovely. Others, they emphasize this absurdity stuff, but really what I think of it is I think it's beastly and dangerous, and it's kind of intertwined, those two. But yeah, some people would say it's just lovely. It's just there are those who think it's unfair, but then they just can't think one step further. But yeah, it's not primarily absurd. It's just how I see things, because I have a lot of fun. God, I can't keep going to work. There's a latest thing on that whole thing with me and work, and it's not even just that no one's compatible with me, no one gets anything. It's more, and it bleeds into the me as audio addict drama. So as an audio addict, for those of you who might approach something like that, you'll notice your filter. You've got a harder time keeping a handle on your filter. It's not that you're completely filterless, but at work we're supposed to be professional, and so they like to quip. They like to joke, but all the joking is innocuous. And sometimes they're like, well, why don't you joke around? Every now and then you say something funny, so we want you to joke around with us. And I'm just hesitant, because any joke that to me is funny is an outrageous joke, and usually an outrageous joke at someone's expense. And God, there's so many jokes that I can tell at their expense that crosses all kinds of professional boundaries and all kinds of stuff. But and so there's just been, with each passing week as an audio addict, I spend so much time just having no filter when I'm yelling into this thing, the phone, and it's just creeping up on me. It's affecting me. There's been a lot of these close calls where I'm a hair trigger away from saying the outrageous thing as a joke that, who knows, maybe every single one of them at night. It's a night crew, so it's a more chill crew than the day crew, but, if I'm a hair trigger away and I can't verify for sure that they would be cool with it, I'm not even saying they would take action. I just don't want to offend someone whose, humorous sensibilities I can't quite suss out if they're that level. But as an audio addict, I am dangerously close to being completely filterless. And I've just caught myself increasingly almost saying, because I just forget myself, almost saying the extremely unprofessional thing as a quip, right? So it's like they probably would get it, but I just can't be sure. So I'm in this uncanny valley space humor-wise at work, and it's why I want to stop going to work. Has there ever been a reason where someone's had to stop going to work come down to this, not being sure that you can keep the filter on when it comes to your rhetoric, so TLDR, UBI now. Yeah, maybe they don't want me to joke around. Maybe it's more about they solicit certain opinions and, opinions where it's like it's inevitable that by me sharing my opinion, things will get a little lulzy, whereas their lulzies for the most part just, it's safe lulls, but mine is very unsafe lulls. Unsafe for work, unsafe for lulls. So, TLDR, UBI now, like even if it's true that Klaus Schwab is like some octopus who wants to eat us all, like it's still, I don't care, UBI now. I'll take the risk with the Schwabs and with the, World Economic Boredom? Yeah, I'll take the risk with the World Economic Boredom trying to eat me, but give me UBI. I guess this is about as good as any prelude to some audios that I recorded in the summer of 2013. I think these are more of that July pile. Either July or August 2013, not 2013, sorry, 2023. I do that often. I say 2012 for 2022, and I say 2013 for 2023. But here I mean summer audios from 2023 where I'm talking about another type of close call where it's not even that I was aiming to be comedic. This is another thing that I think connects really well with that. Yeah, no, I can't do the 2023 ones too damn long. They'd make the video too damn long. Instead, you get a couple of ones from fall 2022. Enjoy.
And the main thing is artifice and the massive gap between professed and revealed convictions in terms of, okay, so it's in very poor taste to talk ill of the dead, especially the recently murdered. That's how I ended that audio off. But if I just ask each and every one of you watching this, and I know if I ask myself, what would be worse? Having my obituary spout a bunch of falsehoods about me, or having my obituary be truthful about what kind of person I was, and not just obituary, but these, posthumous write-ups about people, and there's a whole performativity around what happens when a person dies, whether it's a person you love or care about to some extent. And even sometimes, just as we find out about the Queen, even a stranger. So a stranger can die, but it can be an important figure. And perhaps the Queen is not an exact manifestation of the example I'm talking about, because she did seem to be decent, but who the hell knows. But the point is, what would you rather have, your obituary or your posthumous, people who write about you posthumously, you being the posthumous subject? What would you rather have happen? Them spout falsehoods that they maybe in the moment convince themselves aren't falsehoods, or that it somehow doesn't matter? Or do people talk about you bluntly and frankly and truthfully and really forthrightly? Let's say those people who truly understood you, let's say as well as you understand yourself, or better. No, it obviously would be better if the things that are written about you and said about you during your funeral, during your wake, those things are true. As close to the truth as possible about what kind of person you were. Even if it turns out that, okay, so he was kind of underwhelming. But it just shows the corruptibility of the human mind, that they cannot, even if they might nod along to it, as they're hearing me say it now, during the actual funeral, they cannot help it but spin the more positive story. Because it would just seem so asshole-ish not to do that, because we just have a hard time with death. Just like we have a hard time with the subject of starting lives, putting people into existence. It just feels too uncomfortable. Of course, I'm using we in the sense that I say no one should use we, because I'm not talking about myself, and I'm likely not talking about many of the people watching this video, but I said we watching this video, listening to this audio. Maybe this will be a video. Maybe I'll tag this on at the end of a video. But people just have a really hard time, even if they might get the logic of it, even if in the abstract, what I just said strikes them the right way, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter in the heat of the moment. In the heat of the moment, they would have to exaggerate how good the person they're burying truly was, and how exceptional in all these ways, and helpful and considerate and funny. There's all these, every time I'm reading about a recently murdered person, which I've been doing a lot. I've had increasingly morbid interests as of late. But yeah, this was a person who always lit up a room. It's like, Jesus, I'm never, I'm around way more people than I'd like to be, and yet I'm never around a person who lights up a room. Might you be exaggerating a little? Yeah, they are. Because they're grotesque. They're grotesquely biased against that which feels uncomfortable. And we gotta stop, before we do anything else, we just gotta stop being grotesquely biased against that which seems or feels or truly is really uncomfortable. Because it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, in any sense of wrong.
God.
She did seem to be decent.
She did seem to be decent. Yeah, of course. You say something that you don't know why you said it, and so then you say,
but who the hell knows?
And then you say, who the hell knows? How the hell would I know whether or not the Queen is decent? Just a couple of more on this one.
Oh, the 2 audios ago I just listened.
I have no idea.
I didn't connect it to the main thing.
I have no idea. This is so long ago. I have no idea what I was referencing there. And also, I lost this. I had a follow-up to this that I can't find because it's just that long ago. But hang on, how did I start this?
Oh, the 2 audios ago I just listened to it. I didn't connect.
I want to use this in this video. Fair enough. It's kind of, it's within the arc of this video, believe it or not. But I have no idea what else I'm referencing here because this is just that old. Okay, so I corrected the Queen bit. I don't know why I said the Queen is decent. I have no idea. I thought to correct it in real time, but then I'm like, why didn't I prosecute myself for saying it? I guess with time, you just train your brain to be better as you're doing the audios. You can tell you can just tell by the tenor of the voice. I'm not as grumpy sounding
Lights up a room. Might you be exaggerating a little? Yeah, they are. Because they're grotesque. They're grotesquely biased against that which feels uncomfortable.
Biased.
And we gotta stop, before we do
I say it again.
anything else, we just gotta stop being grotesquely biased
Biased.
against that which seems or feels or truly.
Sometimes I plan to upload audios and then I listen to them back and I'm like, oh, I swallowed a letter, so I'm not gonna upload this audio. But then I'm like, well, why not just start doing this? Just poke fun at yourself visually after the audio while playing the audio.
Is really uncomfortable because it doesn't necessarily mean
Biased.
they're grotesquely biased against that which feels uncomfortable.
Anyway, I think I've cleaned this up and now I can move on to the next thing that is recent. So I couldn't find the other one. There was another one to this. Something more with a queen, maybe? I don't know, but that's okay because I expand on it in a yet newer thing where I'm just better. I'm just better. It's only been a year and a half, but I'm much better. It's a funeral, so I have those old audios from 2022 where I'm going on about how, funerals are a recipe for not saying what's on your mind. But again, you do have to accept the premise that most people, it's hard to say nice things about most people, including the dead ones. And this scene from Duckman really gets that. But of course, there's Ajax hijinks as well.
Ajax, don't touch that.
Dearly beloved, family, friends, paid mourners, we are here to bury my uncle Mo Dorkin, who was taken from us by heart cancer, a disease that I got to admit I had never heard of until I caused him to die from it. I will know better next time. Mo was not famous, or gifted, or smart, or decent, or kind. We are not here because we loved him. Mostly we are here because Bernice made us come. Also, we want to see with our own eyes that he is really dead. And will not jump out of the coffin or stick his hand up out of the ground like in Carrie when Amy Irving... Get on with it! Right. Usually, when a loved one cacks, we try to hold him here, in our hearts. Or, if you're from the southern hemisphere, here. But who's gonna miss Mo? Not me. Let's face it, he was an irritating, obnoxious, arrogant, selfish.
So if the average funeral allowed for this kind of thing, I just might show up for my, distant and maybe not so distant fam's funerals. I might fly halfway across the world to attend all such funerals. But you know that I wouldn't be allowed to say any such thing. I mean, I would be allowed to, but then I'd be tarred and feathered.
Hey, wait.
Serbian style.
That's what it said under my high school yearbook photo. I'm just like Mo. And if I don't clean up my act, I'll end up just like Mo.
But I wouldn't have any such, crisis at the way he's having here. I'm too much of an egomaniac to have any such crisis. So sometimes Duckman's relatable, other times not so much.
Lying in a cheap balsa wood casket, unmissed and unloved.
No, I would just trash the fam and just kind of leave.
The man who makes his demand will find out that there is no worse or more exacting usurer than time, and that, if you compel time to give money in advance, you will have to pay a rate of interest more ruinous than any Jew would require.
Oh, shop. Man. So more about councils and maxims, I'm just going to have AI play it. This is kind of implications for, the assembly line nationalists. Mouth-breathing nationalists are so impressed or so at home when there's one of these ceremonial things and one of these flag-centered things. The people who weep and who are not embarrassed to point out that they'd weep were someone to burn their favorite flag with this configuration of colors that makes them go, that activates the dopamine. Just like a word like America, maybe it's some other words, but usually here, America activates the dopamine, flags activate the dopamine. But it's not just about the dopamine. I go on about the dopamine, but then he sets his sights on the funeral stuff. So I think I'm putting this right after the Duckman funeral scene, because then he said, first it's about, you got to think about the, the traffic lights, Rise for the Traffic Light, national anthem. That's the first bit. And then he gets into the funeral stuff.
The chief obstacle to our arriving at these salutary views is that hypocrisy of the world to which I have already alluded, and hypocrisy which should be early revealed to the young. Most of the glories of the world are mere outward show, like the scenes on a stage. There is nothing real about them. Ships festooned and hung with pennants, firing of cannon, illuminations, beating of drums and blowing of trumpets, shouting and applauding, these are all the outward sign, the pretense and suggestion, as it were the hieroglyphic of joy. But just there, joy is, as a rule, not to be found. It is the only guest who has declined to be present at the festival. Where this guest may really be found, he comes generally without invitation. He is not formally announced, but slips in quietly by himself sans facon, often making his appearance under the most unimportant and trivial circumstances, and in the commonest company anywhere, in short, but where the society is brilliant and distinguished.
It's why I've always just felt that there's just something where there's something missing when you're at a parade, even as a really young kid. You just feel like, no, this is contrivance. It doesn't run through your head as a word, but you feel it. Well, you don't. Most don't. That's why it exists. It's because most don't. So I shouldn't use the general you. It's just a few of us we sometimes signal to each other.
Joy is like the gold in the Australian mines, found only now and then, as it were, by the caprice of chance, and according to no rule or law, oftenest in very little grains, and very seldom in heaps.
Or sometimes in this, stuff like this, you have half of it, you should stop, but, there's too much joy.
All that outward show which I have described is only an attempt to make people believe that it is
greasy fingers.
Really joy which has come to the festival, and to produce this impression upon the spectators is, in fact, the whole object of it.
Yep.
With mourning it is just the same.
Here we come.
That long funeral procession, moving up so slowly, how melancholy it looks. What an endless row of carriages. But look into them, they are all empty. The coachmen of the whole town are the sole escort the dead man has to his grave. Eloquent picture of the friendship and esteem of the world. This is the falsehood, the hollowness, the hypocrisy of human affairs.
What I like about this is that the voice is one of those, maybe small town schmuck, the kind of voice that's naive precisely because it hopes for things. A very hopey voice. Hopey. And I say I'm not agile in terms of wordy agility. No, I am. Well, I guess a lot of people called Obama hopey, so I'm not that original. But anyway, the voice it's naive precisely because it's got that wonder element. Oh, there we go. Kevin Arnold from the Wonder Years, the voiceover guy. It's that guy, except if he were to sound a lot more AI-like, but still having that element of hope and inspirational vibes. But the text is just so opposite of that. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose the reader. I'm just playing what someone else chose. But it's like if Shop heard his text read out in this kind of small town schmuck inspirational voice, he'd barf.
Take another example, a roomful of guests in full dress, being received with great ceremony. You could almost believe that this is
it's the Twilight Zone, given what the text conveys and how the voice sounds.
Noble and distinguished company, but as a matter of fact...
Why don't I just read? I can't read it because the screen only moves as the text goes. But as a matter of fact, it is compulsion, pain, and boredom who are the real guests. For where many are invited, it is a rabble, even if they all wear stars.
It is compulsion, pain, and boredom who are the real guests. For where many are invited, it is a rabble, even if they all wear stars. Really good society is everywhere of necessity very small. In brilliant festivals and noisy entertainments, there is always, at bottom, a sense of emptiness prevalent. A false tone is there. Such gatherings are in strange contrast with the misery and barrenness of our existence.
Well, except for Porcupine Tree concerts and Bad Religion concerts, maybe.
The contrast brings the true condition into greater relief. Still, these gatherings are effective from the outside, and that is just their purpose. Chamfort 8 makes the excellent remark that society less
Oh, foreign stuff. Time to end it. No, hang on. I can't do intellectual xenophobia. Chamfort. So Chamfort, how many? 5. And we just left it off. I just left it off there. I really thought, we can't do, but Shop loves him, Chamfort. Where is it? They describe Chamfort. Okay, I guess I went all the way. A French miscellaneous writer whose brilliant conversation, power of sarcasm, and epigrammatic force, coupled with an extraordinary career, render him one of the most interesting and remarkable men of his time. Schopenhauer undoubtedly owed much to this writer, to whom he constantly refers. Yeah, that's everyone's homework, including mine. We all have to read Chamfort. I don't know. I hated the siren. I kind of dig these, even though they are a little distracting. I guess it's just kind of Pavlovian too. The area is better, so the external sound effects, I'm deluded into thinking they're better.
But yeah, let's all read Chamfort and then share what we thought of it. Bitchin'.
No, that's not the static. That's me LARPing as static.
God, I still haven't done the follow-up to this paper thing that I was supposed to do. And this was, I don't know what the date was, but it was 8... No, this was not that long after I freaking moved in. You can see a little sneak peek. But it's now this, it was this then, and now this is over there. The thing's over there, the thing used to be there, now the thing's there. But this was 8 degrees daytime. This must have been, because I'm just doing all this other stuff, but I'm supposed to do a full throttle commentary on this paper. This is a very interesting paper with co-authored. Kind of makes some of the arguments I've been making all along, but, you know, philosophically crisply. But here, what do I say?
The convictions of the other side, but I really...
And yeah, this is not the follow-up itself. The follow-up will come when it comes. But it just strikes me that it's not just the 2023 stuff that's delayed. Stuff from 2-3 months ago, early springtime, late winter, even that, I was supposed to be solving issues here when I was making them.
Like, if I were to LARP an intellectually honest natalist...
And that's how you also know it's a little delayed, because I'm still saying natalist instead of begetter. Oh, what the hell, I can't bring it up and then not even introduce it. I'll do a whole thing about it in a separate video, but since I brought it up here to make the I didn't used to say begetter point as a kind of signifier of the video title. It was I didn't used to say begetter all the time, but now I am, because I got my own stuff. I don't think this needs to be an aggressive ideology. I don't think this needs to be a missionary ideology. And so to distinguish myself, I say begetter. I say anti-begetter. And to the extent that you all agree with me on those things, that it doesn't need to be an aggressive ideology, doesn't need to be some broader worldview. It's a one position kind of thing. So maybe you all should start saying begetter instead of, or anti-begetter instead of anti-natal. But here is about as close as a paper as you're going to get that associates anti-natalism with some of these kinds of arguments that I've been fixated on over the years. And its co-authors are someone I don't know, and Old Fan from YouTube. And Old Fan kind of does, you know, late in the paper admit that, should I use pronouns? They? I don't even know. I'll use they as the pronouns. That they are only responsible for the activist front of the paper. And I'm like, well, that's just what I would have expected. But anyway, just to give it a proper kind of run through the abstract, anti-natalism is an emerging philosophy. I wouldn't say that. Especially if you read Shop on just how much this was, just how close something to anti-natalism was prevalent in the East, but then they had families anyway. wasn't a practiced philosophy, but it was kind of what they believed. You know, it's better not to be than to be, but you know, let's have families anyway. Anti-natalism is an emerging philosophy and practice that challenges pronatalism, the prevailing philosophy and practice in reproductive matters. We explore justifications of anti-natalism, the arguments from the quality of life, the risk of an intolerable life, so things that, you know, very much tie into, you know, these fakers who say never again in very narrow ways. They want never again. But the moment they're crunched existentially, then, oh, never again is oppressive. Never again is sick. Never again is wrong-headed. But, you know, never again when it comes to, you know, state actors. Like, okay, well, maybe you can't have one without the other. What if you can't have one without the other? What do you do then? Then you should err on never again. But you don't, because you guys suck. Arguments from the quality of life, the risk of an intolerable life, the lack of consent, and the asymmetry of good and bad, and argue that none of them supports a concrete, understandable, and convincing moral case for not having children. And I'm like, what? And then I scroll up, it's like, what, Amanda partook in this, the writing of this? But later it is revealed that this is not the way it seems. They just meant human psychology is so fucked that these things do not present a concrete, understandable, and convincing moral case for not having children, given what we know about that extremely fucked up psychology that is the tendency of the human race. That's what they mean in the abstract. So that's why kind of Amanda could co-sign on this. Amanda very much believes that this should be an aggressive missionary philosophy / ideology. She very much does believe that. But, you know, here she makes some really good arguments in terms of kind of the stuff that I've got that old video, Parenthood as Moral Quicksand. This is kind of a crisp telling of that old video.
They do kind of parenthood as moral quicksand better than I did in that video, because here it's a paper. We identify a concentration on possible future individuals who may or may not come to be as the main culprit of the failure, and suggest that the focus should be shifted to people who already exist. Pro-natalism's hegemonic status in contemporary societies imposes upon us a lifestyle that we have not chosen yet find almost impossible to abandon. Very much so. And not just because, like Ma would be suicidal, or Pa would be, even more indebted were I to croak, and he would be devastated too. Not just because our nearest and dearest fam and maybe some friends, because we care about them. Even if we're dead, we can care about them. So it's not just so we wouldn't crush them, the few of us who might have reasons to, contemplate early exits, certainly by the 60s. But because it's just hard to do biologically, we find almost impossible to abandon. And some people fear, disappointing family members, not by like killing themselves, but just like abandoning their faith. We explicate the nature of this imposition and consider the implication of its exposure to different stakeholders with varying stance on the practice of antinatalism. Imposition as a term has figured in reproductive debates before, but the argument from postnatal, mental, and cultural imposition we launch is new. It is the hitherto overlooked and underdeveloped justification of antinatalism that should be solid and comprehensible enough to be used even by activists in support of their work. Yeah, and it very much comes down to, if we're moral individualists and if we believe content of character over color of skin and the like, part of that and the like is blood is thicker than water. So when you initiate some of this, you kind of say maybe blood is thicker than water should not be a part of that. Judge a person by the content of their character, because you're always going to end up really having to care more for your fam, because they're your fam. And in a sense that insofar as they're young and defenseless, you ought to care. But see, you put yourself in these impossible situations where you might parrot King's speeches and stuff like that, but you don't practice it to the letter. Because by choosing, this is the people who chose, right? Not necessarily everyone. Like if something happened and you didn't have control, because she was too stupid to abort and you didn't know, right? You didn't know you coomed, you thought you'd pull out, but then she's too stupid to abort. You're not as on the hook as are the people who choose to have the family. If you choose it, things go wrong. You hissed at those who told you never again might apply to this sort of stuff. And then if it's your child that's got the Amber Alert, as horrible as it is, it's like you just wish you could take back. You just wish you could take back the present and step back into the past. I can't imagine what it'd be like to have the Amber Alert go out for your child and to have to live through that kind of uncertainty. But one thing I would be able to imagine is you'd want the past to reassert itself so that you can do whatever it takes to prevent the present. But one way to recognize that is to recognize never again is also a procreative matter. And there's too many begetters who fail to realize that, and they can't even learn the hard way. They can't even be decent enough to admit it once the snake eyes has befallen their child through something like an Amber Alert, most of which end very badly. But yeah, this is about the imposition of a lifestyle. So I'm just kind of, I'm kind of rounding it out. But yeah, this is a brilliant paper, and here they mean it just doesn't sell. The ordinary arguments for antinatal conclusions just don't sell. So they broaden it out. But I kind of should have been one of the footnotes here. There's a lot of footnotes and stuff. But my many videos critical of parenthood, but among the biggest ones being parenthood as moral quicksand. But no credits given to me, but that's okay. I'm not salty. I'm, after all, the obscure one.
Oh, yeah? Yeah!
Like, Trump is funny. I think
No.
being funny is funny because I used to tell people this all the time, and the same red pillars that worship Trump, they're too stupid to realize it's because he's funny. But I
Except he's not.
always say this about me, getting late and shit in school and college or whatever. Being funny, having a really good sense of humor gets you in with so many different people. So many things about your character don't matter.
I grant they think he's funny, but he's not. Just like The Apprentice was a shitty show, but my friend, 04, he was so enamored with this show, my tennis friend. tried to watch the show. I was like, how can you possibly watch this? Same type of friend who didn't like the, that skit, the Black Flag skit, Family Man. Yeah, he didn't get that, but he's, we're going to watch The Apprentice.
You can make people laugh.
But he wouldn't have voted for Trump now because I bumped into him, and he's still, because he's Canadian, so he's like, how could it be so stupid to vote Trump in? But he thought Trump was funny.
Truly, like, it is one of the most important skills in life. And Trump just has really good stage presence. He's got good witty one-liners. He's like a funny dude to watch. He did his little tic-tac thing or whatever, the boxes and the inflation or whatever.
I just see a person who is like, yeah, this is stand-up for old farts. So it's like, yeah, you got to have a safe enough stand-up person for old farts, but like partisan. So stand-up for old farts plus ultra partisan. How can that be funny?
I think that him being
probably funnier than Gutfeld, but then it's like we're batting low.
Funny is probably responsible. I'm funny, but I really think it's like responsible for the majority of his success as a politician.
Treat a man not by the color of his skin, but by his willingness to suck Trump off, and by his ability to tickle your funny bones. Because the awkward... It's all about them funny bones.
Thing, too, that you have to make, like, the Trumples grapple with, but you don't because they don't care, is that, like, for Biden and all of his senility, how is it that a guy who can barely string together a sentence was able to...
I can't say fuck because I'm Destiny and I can't shed views by saying fuck because I only get 6.1K.
Shit out so much more legislation than your
thumbs
God Emperor was. How do you ever explain that? It's like unfathomable.
What did he say?
Your God Emperor was together sentence was able to shit out so much more legislation than your God Emperor was. How do you ever explain that? It's like unfathomable.
Well, they explain that by Dem tyranny and GOP liberty. That's how they explain that.
Like, it's embarrassing.
They'd love to be challenged on that. That's why. It's because Dems are always more tyrannical.
Embarrassing as it might be that Biden, was completely unable to, present himself well on stage. Like, okay, well, what does Trump have to show for all of his cognition? Like, absolutely nothing, which is mind-blowing.
Precisely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you made that point.
Well, he deported a lot of, the separation. Obama did it too, but then Trump did it, and then there was a lot of Schadenfreude because it made libs' heads explode. The family separation. And so they like that, because the point is the cruelty is the point. Not necessarily with those kids who were separated from their families. That's just the means to an end. The ends is you make the lips' heads explode. That's the end.
On one of your Pierce Morgan panels, and again, this.
What does Trump have to show for all of his cognition? Like, absolutely nothing, which is mind-blowing.
Precisely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you made that point on one of your Pierce Morgan panels, and again, that's kind of where I fall on, which is...
But nobody cares.
I care, Destiny. I care in post-production.
And it's frankly pretty bizarre to see. So what's happening at the UN?
So here's the devastation of it.
What's happening at the UN? So now she's going to explain, the structure of the UN initially. It's Sam's last guest. It's the last podcast. It's another last-minute thing. Can't pronounce her name.
I think that anti-Semitism is just perhaps as I referred to in that speech, the bloody canary in the mine shaft. But here's the thing, that this infrastructure was...
The UN infrastructure, that is.
...created post-World War II to ensure that an international rules-based order guided the way in which countries held each other to account, and were held to account, including, by the way, in situations of war. And the understanding that if that infrastructure that was created, mandated to uphold, promote, and protect these foundational principles in order that we fulfill the prospective or future-looking commitment of never again, right?
That is what this video is about.
Post-Holocaust.
This video is about never again, except I think one step further than all these formalists. I make it existential. You wanna guarantee never again? There's only one way to do it, in your own little macrocosm or microcosm way. You can't do it in a macrocosm. Guarantee never again? You do your own little part. Do not beget.
Understanding that not only 6 million Jews, but
the whole world talking about this, but like never comes up. It's like, hey, what about, just don't beget?
6 million Jews were systematically murdered, butchered, burned because of this lethal hatred that enabled their dehumanization, their delegitimization, and the application of double standards to them as individuals or as communities in their various countries. That enabled the atrocities of the Holocaust. So the never again principle, which the majority of the countries that joined at the time in understanding that we need to ensure that never again. And I say
there's only one way to ensure it, and we won't, but I will, in my own little corner of the world.
Prospective or future looking, because we can't very well prevent the past, can we? But
No, we can't.
what Never Again committed to do was to actually learn from the past, from that demonization.
Yeah, but none of you learned enough. Yeah, maybe you learned like 9/10 of what you needed to learn, but you couldn't take the final step, could you?
Legitimization and double standards, the process that enabled eventually, because it didn't happen overnight.
I mean, I just love to be, in the boxing ring or whatever, however we put it, with them, and just to see what they would say. But, we'll never know, because they wouldn't platform me.
The atrocities of the Holocaust, so that never again. And words like genocide and crimes against humanity.
Because all that stuff, it's all just baked into the cake of what we are. You don't have to have a lobby to end what we are, but you should at least, you should mourn our existence, but you can't even bring yourself to mourn our existence because you think all of this is in some way exogenous to our existence. No, it's baked into what we are.
Coined, actually, for the Nuremberg trials because there were no words to describe the atrocities. Right, so that double standard, and I think we'll drill down on some other things that have happened at the UN, but that double standard is actually one of the most critical pieces to understand. Look, double standards, or the selective application of any principle, undermines the entire infrastructure.
You don't say.
Always. When people say to me, I'm not a lawyer, I don't understand that, I say, look, if you're 3 years old and I say to you, we're going to play a game, and you're going to play according to the rules, but I'm not, that 3-year-old will say to me, I'm not playing.
Yeah, see, even a 3-year-old can figure it out.
I'm not playing. That is the problem.
It's stupid. It's play beastly games, win beastly prizes. That's when you want to have more existence. Is play beastly games, win beastly prizes. But you think that because, there was a little, short period where we weren't winning as many beastly prizes. We were winning some, cerebral prizes, some actual good prizes. Therefore, it'll just keep going. It'll just keep getting better. We'll get less and less beastly. No, we're not.
With double standards. And that should concern us.
Yeah, double standards. So again, who applies consistent standards thoroughgoingly? The person that gets it, that we're just going to keep playing beastly games and winning beastly prizes? Or the people who think, the sophisticates who are really just deluded about what we are at our core, right? The world is just a reflection of our will. Our will is red shit, blah, blah, blah. You know the score. God, I want to end this. I need to end this, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, because they're right politically, I'll say. They're making a lot of sense. There are these double standards in terms of, Syria and a lot of other bloodshed, but no one cares. But people really do care when it's Israeli bloodshed, Israeli-caused bloodshed. But it's not even Israeli-caused bloodshed, it's all Hamas. But it's no, there's individuals who clearly they're bigoted. It's as if 100% of the Israelis are non-bigoted and 100% of the anti-Israelis are bigoted. It's come on, Sam. Oh. But it's broadly speaking, it's fine. It's just that it's they're poker facing their way around the obvious. She even said, life. The UN is there to uphold the principles of life and liberty. But I'm life? Well, life's just beastly.
So the consistent application of double...
Yeah, what I do, because I make it existential.
...standards, or the selective application of standards to one single member...
I apply standards consistently, thoroughgoingly, unlike them.
...state in the family of nations, that happens to be the proverbial Jew among the nations, the Jewish nation state that is Israel. That is a problem not just for that member state. It is a problem for the infrastructure...
Blah, blah, blah. You know how this kind of thing goes. I'm done.